Welcome to Midnight Sleep Chronicles. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Take a deep breath with me. Just breathe. Let your body settle into wherever you're resting right now. Tonight, we're exploring something absolutely fascinating. Something you're doing right now, in this very moment, without even realizing it. Something that's been with you since your very first day, quietly working in the background, weaving the story of who you are. Something that connects you to your childhood self and will carry you gently into tomorrow. You'll discover why a certain scent, maybe fresh-cut grass or rain on warm pavement, or your grandmother's perfume, can transport you 30 years into the past in a single heartbeat. Why you can forget where you put your keys 5 minutes ago, but remember every word of a song you haven't heard since you were 7 years old. Why some memories feel more vivid and real than the present moment, while others slip away like water through your fingers, no matter how hard you try to hold them. Memory. That vast, invisible library inside your mind. The story you tell yourself about who you are. The bridge between past and future. The thing that makes this moment meaningful, because you know you'll remember it tomorrow. But before we begin our journey together, I'd love it if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It truly means the world to me. And I'm always curious, where are you listening from right now, and what's the first memory that comes to your mind? Write about it in the comments. It's always so beautiful to read what people remember. Now, let's begin. Let's drift together into the world of memory, where past and present blur, where who you were meets who you are, where everything you've forgotten and everything you carry forward somehow exist in the same quiet space. Breathe, settle, let go. Let's begin. Act 1. Reality. The science of remembering and forgetting. The palace of memory. Close your eyes for a moment. Let them rest, heavy, comfortable. Now, think of your childhood home. Not with effort, just let it appear. Gently, like a photograph developing in warm liquid. Can you see it? The color of the front door. Maybe it was red, maybe blue, maybe white paint peeling at the edges. The way afternoon light came through a particular window, casting shadows that moved slowly across the floor as the sun traveled. The smell of the kitchen, coffee in the morning maybe, or bread baking, or that particular smell of old wood and dust that every house has. Its own signature, its own perfume. The sound of footsteps on the stairs. Someone coming home. Someone you loved. The specific creak of the third step that always gave away when someone was trying to sneak down at night. You haven't been there in years, perhaps decades. The house might not even exist anymore. Torn, down, rebuilt, changed beyond recognition. And yet, here it is, reconstructed in your mind with such detail, such clarity, as if you could walk through it right now. Open that door, climb those stairs, come home again. Where was this information stored all these years? In what quiet corner of your brain has this house been waiting? How did your mind preserve it? The colors, the smells, the sounds, the feelings, across decades of other experiences. And why this? Why can you remember your childhood home in such detail but not what you had for breakfast last Tuesday? Memory is perhaps the most remarkable thing your brain does. And it does it constantly, effortlessly, invisibly, like breathing, like your heartbeat, always there, always working, deciding moment by moment what to keep and what to let go. This matters. That doesn't. This gets stored forever. That vanishes within seconds. Right now, as you listen to these words, as you feel the weight of your body wherever, you're resting, as you breathe in and out. Your brain is processing everything. Sound becoming meaning. Meaning connecting to everything you already know. And somewhere, deep in the machinery of your mind, a decision is being made. Will you remember this moment, this thought, this feeling? Most of it will be gone by morning, dissolved like a dream. But some part, maybe just a phrase, maybe a feeling, maybe simply the fact that you listened tonight, that you were here, some part will stay with you, will become woven into the fabric of who you are, will become part of your story. Let's start at the beginning. Not your beginning. Humanity's beginning. Long before writing. Long before anyone could capture memory outside the mind itself. Ancient memory. Before writing. Imagine, if you will, living 50,000 years ago. Close your eyes and step back through time. Feel it. The air is different. Cleaner. The night sky blazes with more stars than you've ever seen. No city, lights to dim them. Just endless darkness pierced by countless points of light. You are human, fully human. Your brain is identical to the one you have now. The same capacity, the same potential. But you have no writing. No books gathering dust on shelves. No photographs tucked in albums. No recordings of any kind. Everything you know, everything your tribe knows, everything that keeps you alive, exists only in memory. Only in memory. Your survival depends on remembering. You must remember which plants heal and which plants kill, which berries are safe and which will make you sick for days, which animals can be hunted and which will hunt you, where water can be found when the dry season comes and the rivers shrink to mud. How to make fire when the nights grow cold. How to craft tools from stone and bone. How to read the stars so you can find your way home. And you must remember stories. The stories that hold everything together. The stories of your ancestors who walked these same paths. The stories that explain why the sun rises and where the rain comes from. These stories are not just entertainment around the fire. They are technology. They are survival. They are how knowledge moves from one generation to the next. So you develop techniques. You create rhythms that help you remember. You make songs. You attach information to landmarks in the landscape. That rock shaped like a sleeping bear, that tree split by lightning, that bend in the river where the water runs fast. You walk the same paths your ancestors walked. And the journey itself becomes memory. Each rock, each tree, each turn in the path, a chapter in the story, a verse in the song, a piece of the knowledge that keeps you alive. The Australian Aboriginal peoples developed something called song lines, song cycles so intricate, so detailed, that someone who has never been to a place can navigate across hundreds of miles using only the song. The song is the map. The map is the story. The story is the law. The law is the land. All held in memory, passed down perfectly across not just generations, but across hundreds of generations, thousands of years of perfect transmission. Because if the song is forgotten, the knowledge is lost. The way is lost. The culture itself begins to fade. Memory was not just important. Memory was everything. Memory was life itself. The ancient Greeks understood this in their bones. They looked at memory and saw something so fundamental, so powerful, that they made her a goddess, Mnemosyne, memory herself, mother of the 9 muses. And in that mythology, they captured something true. All art, all science, all culture, all beauty, everything flows from memory. Without memory, there is no learning. Without learning, there is no civilization. Without civilization, we're just animals moving through the present moment with no past and no future. And so the Greeks developed techniques, methods to strengthen memory, to organize it, to make it as reliable as the stars in the sky. The method of loci, memory palaces. The year is 500 BCE, Athens. The sun is setting, painting the marble columns gold and pink. A poet named Simonides stands in a crowded banquet hall reciting verses in honor of his host. His voice carries across the room. The guests eat and drink and listen. The wine flows. The evening is warm and pleasant. Then Simonides receives a message. Someone wants to speak with him outside. He excuses himself, steps through the doorway, into the cool evening air. Behind him, there's a sound, a terrible sound, a crack like thunder. The roof collapses, the entire roof. Beams and tiles and stone crashing down. In seconds, everyone inside is buried, killed, crushed beyond recognition. The families arrive at dawn, desperate, heartbroken. They need to identify their dead, need to bring them home for proper burial. But the bodies are too damaged, faces destroyed. No way to tell who is who. Simonides closes his eyes, and he remembers. He sees the banquet hall as it was. In his mind, it's still intact, still whole. He walks through it in his memory, looking at each couch, each table. He remembers exactly where each person was sitting, who was next to whom, who was by the window, who was near the door. He walks the room in his mind, points to each position, names each guest, one by one. Perfect recall. In that moment of tragedy, in that terrible gift of memory, he discovers something profound, something that will change how humans think about thinking for the next 2,000 years. Spatial memory is powerful, extraordinarily powerful, more powerful than any other kind. If you attach information to locations, to places in a space you know well, you can remember vast amounts of information with perfect accuracy. The memory of space pulls the other memories along with it, like a thread woven through everything. This becomes known as the method of loci, the memory palace technique. Greek and Roman orators use it to memorize hours of speeches without any notes. Medieval scholars use it to memorize entire books, word for word. And memory champions use it today to memorize thousands of random digits, shuffled decks of cards, lists of names and faces. Here's how it works. It's simple, beautiful, really. You imagine a building you know intimately. Your childhood home works perfectly. Every room, every corner, every piece of furniture. You know it like you know your own hands. Now, you take the things you want to remember, a shopping list, let's say, and you place them throughout the house, in your imagination, vividly. Strange works better. Memorable works better. Put a giant carton of milk by the front door, eggs cracked and dripping on the staircase, a loaf of bread tucked into bed like a sleeping person. Later, when you need to recall the information, you simply take a walk through the building in your mind. As you pass each location, the item you place there comes back to you. The spatial memory triggers everything else, pulls it forward, makes it available again. Why does this work so well? Why is spatial memory so much stronger than other kinds? Because your brain evolved to remember spaces. For millions of years, longer than we've been fully human, knowing your environment meant survival. Remembering where food was found last season, where predators lurked, where danger waited, how to get home when the light began to fade. This was life and death, every single day. Your brain has dedicated structures for spatial memory. Deep in your brain, there's a region called the hippocampus, shaped like a seahorse, curved and delicate. And it creates maps, cognitive maps of every space you know. There are neurons in your hippocampus, researchers call them place cells, that fire only when you're in specific locations. You have a neuron for your kitchen, a neuron for your bedroom, a neuron for the corner where you wait for the bus. Your brain has mapped the world around you at the cellular level. The world is inside you, written in the language of neurons firing. And the method of Loci hijacks this ancient, powerful system, takes this machinery that evolved for navigation and repurposes it, transforms abstract information into spatial information, makes it concrete, gives it a location, and suddenly, what seemed impossible to remember becomes effortless, natural. As easy as walking through your own home. Roman orators like Cicero could speak for hours without any notes at all. Hours. Delivering perfectly structured arguments, citing sources, responding to counter-arguments, weaving together history and philosophy and law. All from memory. All from walking through their inner palaces where each room held a piece of their speech. Medieval monks used memory palaces to hold scripture. They would mentally walk through the cathedrals where they prayed, placing verses at altars, in alcoves, on pillars. The physical space of the church became a mnemonic device. Architecture and memory merged into one. The building was the book, and the book was the building. It's beautiful when you think about it. The human mind creating inner architecture to hold what matters. Building cathedrals inside consciousness itself. Writing, the external memory. And then, something happened. Something that changed everything forever. Writing. The invention of writing was humanity's greatest technological achievement. The moment we could put thought outside the mind, could make memory external, could preserve knowledge beyond a single lifetime, beyond 100 lifetimes. But it was also, paradoxically, the beginning of the end of memory's dominance. Socrates was suspicious of this new technology. Plato records him saying something like this: "This invention will produce forgetfulness in the minds of those who learn to use it. Because they can write things down, they will not practice their memory. They will trust to external written characters and not remember things themselves. They will have the appearance of wisdom without the reality." He was right, in a way, and also wrong, in a different way. Writing does weaken memory. There's no denying it. When you can look something up, you don't need to memorize it. The ancient Greeks who memorized all of Homer's Iliad, nearly 16,000 lines of poetry, they don't exist anymore. We don't need them. We have books. We have libraries. We have the entire poem sitting on a shelf or on a screen, available whenever we want it. But writing also expands what can be remembered, exponentially. One person's memory is limited, but written records accumulate across generations. Libraries preserve knowledge that no single mind could ever hold. No matter how well trained, no matter how disciplined, the trade-off was worth it. Obviously, we gained far more than we lost, but we did lose something. Something subtle but real. The intimacy of memory. The personal relationship with knowledge. When you memorize something, really memorize it. Not just cram it for a test, but take it into yourself. It becomes part of you. It's always with you, available instantly. You don't need to look it up. Don't need to check. You just know. When knowledge is external, in books, in libraries, in databases, on the internet, it's different. It's accessible, yes. More accessible than ever before in history. But it's not yours in the same way. You know where to find it. But you don't know it, not in your bones, not in the way the ancients knew their songs and stories. This distinction might seem small, but it shapes how we think, how we relate to knowledge, how we understand ourselves. The architecture of memory, modern science. Let's move forward through time now, from ancient Greece to the 20th century, from philosophy to neuroscience, from wondering about memory to measuring it, mapping it, beginning to understand it. Throughout the 20th century, researchers began to discover that memory is not one single thing. It's many things, many systems working together, overlapping, interconnected, like an orchestra where each instrument plays its part. There's the memory of how to do things, how to ride a bicycle, how to tie your shoes, how to play a chord on a guitar. This kind of memory, bucket procedural memory they call it, lives in your body as much as your mind. Your muscles remember, your fingers remember. You don't think about it. You just do it. And there's the memory of facts. Paris is the capital of France. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. The sky is blue. This is semantic memory. Knowledge about the world, things you know without remembering when or where you learned them. And then there's the memory of your life, your story, the memories of things that happened to you. Your first day of school, a birthday, party when you were 7. The conversation you had yesterday with someone you love. These are episodic memories. Personal, unique, yours alone. These different types of memory use different parts of your brain, different networks, different systems, and they can be affected independently. You can lose one kind while keeping another. The architecture is complex, intricate, more beautiful than any building ever constructed. Deep in your brain, there's a structure we've already mentioned. The hippocampus, shaped like a seahorse, curved and delicate, and it plays a crucial role, especially in forming new episodic memories. In taking this moment, right now as you listen, and transforming it into something that might be remembered tomorrow. But the hippocampus is not where memories live permanently. It's more like a librarian, not the library itself. It helps encode memories, helps you form them, and later, it helps you retrieve them. But the memories themselves, the information, the experiences, the knowledge that lives throughout your cortex, distributed, networked, connected in ways we're still trying to understand. When you form a new memory, your hippocampus binds together all the different pieces, the sights, the sounds, the emotions, the meanings, all processed in different parts of your cortex, all separate. And the hippocampus creates an index, a pointer, a way to find all these pieces again and pull them back together. Later, when you remember, the hippocampus helps reactivate the same pattern of brain activity. It's like pulling a thread that's connected to many different places. You pull the thread, and the whole tapestry lights up. The memory reconstructs itself, comes back to life. And here's something important, something that changes everything about how we think about remembering. Remembering is not like playing a video recording. It's not like opening a file on a computer and seeing exactly what was saved. It's reconstruction. Every time. The malleability of memory. Each time you remember something, you're pulling it out of storage, bringing it back into consciousness, reactivating it. But before it gets stored again, there's a moment, a window, where it's vulnerable, soft, changeable. New information can slip in. The memory can be updated, reshaped, not dramatically, not completely, but subtly. The edges soften, details shift. The emotional tone might change. This is both beautiful and unsettling. Beautiful because it means memories can heal. A painful memory, remembered in a safe context, can lose some of its sting. The pain softens, not erased, but gentled, made bearable. This is how therapy works, how we process trauma, how how we move forward. Unsettling because it means our memories are not as reliable as they feel. That confidence you have. I remember this clearly, I'm absolutely certain. That confidence doesn't guarantee accuracy. Researchers have done fascinating experiments. Simple ones. They show people a video of a car accident. Later, they ask questions. Half the people are asked, how fast were the cars going when they hit each other? The other half, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? Just one word different, hit versus smashed, and it changes everything. The smashed group estimates higher speeds. More dramatically, a week later, they're more likely to remember seeing broken glass at the scene. There was no broken glass in the video, but the word smashed painted a picture, and the picture became memory. This happens naturally, all the time. Our memories are stories we tell ourselves, and like all stories, they change in the telling. Details are added, details are lost. The narrative gets smoother, more coherent, more meaningful. Sometimes more accurate, sometimes less. This doesn't mean all your memories are false. Most of what you remember is basically true. The gist is right. The emotional core is real. What happened, happened. But the details, the specifics, they're softer than you think, more flexible, more influenced by your current mood, your current beliefs, the context in which you're remembering, especially emotional memories. The ones that feel most vivid, most real, most certain. Those are the ones most subject to change. Because emotion enhances memory, makes it stronger, more intense. But it doesn't make it more accurate. It just makes you more confident. Emotion and memory. There's a reason you remember certain moments with perfect clarity while others vanish like morning mist. Emotion. When something makes you feel deeply, fear or joy or surprise or awe. Your brain pays attention, pays close attention, takes notes, records everything. Because if something triggers strong emotion, it's probably important. Probably worth remembering. This makes evolutionary sense. If you encounter something that terrifies you and you survive, you need to remember it. Need to remember where it was, what it looked like, what happened, so you can avoid it next time, or prepare for it, or respond differently. If something brings intense joy, you want to remember that too. Want to know how to find it again, how to recreate it, how to return to that feeling. Deep in your brain, there's a small structure called the amygdala, almond-shaped, ancient, and it processes emotion. When you feel something intensely, your amygdala activates, communicates with your hippocampus, says, "This matters. Remember this. Remember everything about this." And your brain releases chemicals, stress hormones they're called, though they're involved in positive emotions too, that enhance memory consolidation. The memory gets burned in more deeply, etched more clearly, made more permanent. This is why you remember exactly where you were during significant historical events. September 11th, where you were standing, who you were with, what time of day it was, how you heard the news. These are called flashbulb memories, vivid, detailed, as if a camera went off in your mind and captured everything. But here's something interesting, something almost paradoxical. Flashbulb memories feel more accurate than they are. The vividness, the confidence, the clarity. It doesn't guarantee truth. Studies have compared people's immediate memories of shocking events to their memories years later. The later memories are different. Sometimes very different. Details have changed, been added, been lost, been transformed. But people don't believe this. Can't believe it. The memories feel so real, so certain, so clear. Emotion enhances memory, makes it stronger, makes it last longer. But it doesn't make it more accurate. It just makes you more sure, more confident, more convinced that what you remember is exactly what happened. The intensity of the feeling becomes confused with the accuracy of the memory. But they're not the same, not the same thing at all. Forgetting, the necessary mercy. We tend to think of forgetting as failure, a flaw in the system, a bug that needs fixing. We say, I forgot, with embarrassment, with frustration, with shame even. But forgetting is not a failure. Forgetting is essential. Forgetting is a gift. Imagine, for just a moment, remembering everything. Every moment of every day of your entire life. Every conversation. Every sight, every sound, every sensation. Every meal. Every step, every breath. It would be overwhelming, paralyzing, suffocating. You couldn't think clearly because you'd be drowning in details. Drowning in information, drowning in the accumulated weight of every moment you've ever lived. Your brain needs to forget, needs to let go, needs to prioritize. Keep what matters. Release what doesn't. This is wisdom. This is efficiency. This is health. Forgetting is how you heal. After pain, after loss, after trauma. The memory doesn't disappear. Completely, not usually. But it fades, softens, loses its sharp edges, loses its power to hurt you in the present moment. Time heals, we say? But really, forgetting heals. Gentle, gradual, merciful forgetting. You need to forget arguments so you can forgive. Need to forget small hurts so relationships can continue. Need to forget past versions of yourself so you can grow into new ones. Forgetting creates space. Space for new experiences, new memories, new versions of who you are. Without forgetting, you'd be trapped, stuck in the past, unable to move forward because the past would be too present, too heavy, too much. There's a pattern to forgetting, a rhythm. Hermann Ebbinghaus discovered it in the 1880s. He memorized lists of nonsense syllables, random combinations of letters that meant nothing, and then tested himself repeatedly over days and weeks. He found that forgetting is rapid at first. Within an hour, about half of new information vanishes. Gone, released, let go. But then the forgetting slows. What remains after a day will probably remain for a week. What remains after a week might remain for years. The curve flattens, stabilizes. What stays, stays. What goes, goes quickly. This is natural. This is how memory works. Not perfectly, but appropriately. The important things tend to stick. The unimportant things fade away. Your brain is constantly making these decisions, constantly sorting, constantly choosing. And you can influence this process. You can strengthen memories you want to keep. Each time you retrieve a memory, each time you remember something, you make it a little stronger, a little more permanent. This is why stories told repeatedly become part of family history. Why songs you sing often are never forgotten. Why places you visit again and again are mapped so clearly in your mind. Repetition, retrieval, return. These strengthen memory. Fight against the natural forgetting. But for everything else, for the thousands of moments that don't get rehearsed, don't get revisited, don't get woven into your narrative, forgetting is kind. Forgetting makes room. Forgetting allows you to live in the present instead of drowning in the past. And sleep helps. During sleep, especially deep sleep, your brain processes memories, consolidates them, strengthens what's important, releases what isn't. Sleep is when the sorting happens, when forgetting does its work, when your mind decides what to carry forward and what to let go. This is one more reason why sleep is so important, not just for rest, but for memory. for the delicate balance between remembering and forgetting that makes consciousness possible. Memory in the digital age. We're living through another great transition, as significant as the invention of writing. Maybe more so, the internet, smartphones, the entire accumulated knowledge of humanity available instantly, in your pocket, available anytime, anywhere. This changes things, changes how we relate to information, to memory, to knowledge itself. Why memorize facts when you can look them up in seconds? Why remember phone numbers when they're stored in contacts? Why remember directions when GPS guides you step by step? Why hold information in your mind when you can hold it in your hand? We're offloading memory to devices. Our phones are becoming external hard drives for our brains. This is called cognitive offloading. And it's not new. We've been doing it since writing was invented, since we started keeping records outside our minds. But the scale is different now. The speed is different. The constant availability is different. And this raises questions. Old questions in new forms. What do we lose when we stop remembering? What do we gain? We lose some intimacy with knowledge. The deep understanding that comes from really wrestling with material, really taking it in, making it yours. When information is always external, always just a search away, there's less incentive to internalize it, less reason to make it part of yourself. We lose some navigation skills. Studies show that people who rely on GPS develop weaker spatial memory. They remember routes less well. They're less aware of their environment. The hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped region that makes cognitive maps, gets less practice. But we gain access. Vast access. More information than any previous generation could even imagine. More than any memory palace could hold. More than any trained mind could internalize. We gain connection, the ability to check facts, to verify, to learn, to explore, to discover, instantly. The trade-off is real, and it's ongoing. We're still figuring it out, still learning how to live in this new relationship with memory and technology. Maybe the key is balance, intentionality, deciding what to remember and what to offload, recognizing that some things are worth holding in your mind, not because you need to, but because the holding matters. The act of remembering, actively retrieving information, working with it, making it yours. That's how understanding deepens, how connections form, how wisdom grows. Use technology to expand what you can access. But don't abandon the practice of remembering. Don't stop exercising your memory, because memory is not just storage. Memory is thinking. Memory is understanding. Memory is you. The goal isn't to reject technology. It's to use it wisely, to be conscious of what you're choosing, to maintain the skills even when you don't strictly need them, to remember that your mind is still the most remarkable technology ever developed. And like any tool, it stays sharp with use. The paradox of memory. So here we are, at the end of our journey through the science of memory. And what have we learned? That memory is paradoxical. It's incredibly powerful. You can remember faces you saw once 30 years ago, yet incredibly fragile. You forget why you walked into a room. It's remarkably accurate. The general shape of your past is mostly correct, yet easily distorted. Confident memories can be completely wrong. It feels like recording, but it's actually reconstruction. It makes you who you are. Yet who you are changes which memories you access and how you interpret them. You cannot escape your memory, and you cannot trust it completely. This is the human condition. Living with memory. Living despite memory. Living because of memory. Every moment, you are the sum of everything you remember and everything you've forgotten. Your identity is narrative. the story you tell yourself about your past. Change the story, and you change yourself. And this brings us to deeper waters, to questions that science alone cannot answer. Questions about what memory means, why we remember, why we forget, what memory reveals about the nature of time, identity, existence itself. For these questions, we must turn from laboratories to libraries, from data to stories, from science to legend. Take a breath now. Let your mind soften. We're shifting from the measurable to the mythical, from what we can prove to what we can imagine, from the brain to the soul. Let's drift together into the realm of legend and myth, where memory becomes metaphor, where forgetting is a river and remembering is a goddess, where the stories we tell about memory reveal truths that facts alone cannot capture. Act 2. Legends. Stories we tell about remembering. The waters of Lethe. Let's drift now into the realm of myth and legend, where memory takes on symbolic weight, where forgetting is a river you cross and remembering is a divine gift. The ancient Greeks told of the underworld, the land of the dead. To reach it, souls must cross several rivers. The most famous is the Styx, the river of hatred. But there's another, less famous but equally important. Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. Every soul that dies must drink from Lethe before being reborn. The water washes away all memory of their previous life. They are cleansed, made blank, ready to begin again. This forgetting is necessary. Imagine being reborn with full memory of your previous death, of all your previous lives. The grief would be unbearable, the confusion overwhelming. How could you live authentically if you remembered being someone else? So Lethe gives mercy, the gift of forgetting, the gift of starting fresh. But there's a twist in some versions of the myth. Initiates into the mystery religions, people who underwent secret rituals promising special knowledge about death, were taught to avoid Lethe. They were given instructions. When you die, there will be two springs. One is Lethe, the other is Mnemosyne, memory. Drink from Mnemosyne. Remember, keep your knowledge, carry it forward. These initiates believed that memory, continuity of consciousness across lives, was enlightenment. Forgetting was falling back into ignorance. The goal was to remember, to wake up, to maintain awareness even through death. The choice between Lethe and Mnemosyne is the choice between peace and knowledge, between starting fresh and carrying the burden, between innocence and wisdom. Which would you choose? If you could remember all your past lives, all the loves, all the losses, all the mistakes, all the pain, would you? Or would you drink deep from Lethe and let it all go? The Library of Alexandria. Not all memory legends are about personal recall. Some are about collective memory, the memory of civilizations, the accumulated knowledge of cultures. And no story captures this better than the Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BCE in Egypt, this was the greatest library the ancient world had ever seen. Scholars estimate it held between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls, copies of every significant work from across the known world. Greek philosophy, Egyptian mathematics, Persian poetry, Jewish scripture, everything. It was more than a library. It was a university, a research center. Scholars came from everywhere to study, to translate, to copy texts. To preserve knowledge, the library represented humanity's determination to remember, to defeat forgetting, to accumulate wisdom across generations. And then it burned. Actually, it probably burned multiple times, partially over centuries. The final destruction was gradual. But the legend focuses on the dramatic version. Julius Caesar accidentally sets fire to the docks in 48 BCE. The fire spreads. The library burns. Centuries of accumulated knowledge turns to ash in hours. The loss was devastating, incalculable. Works by Sophocles, Euripides, Sappho, gone forever. We have fragments, mentions in other texts, but the works themselves, erased. This is humanity's nightmare. Collective amnesia, the forgetting of everything we've learned, the collapse back into ignorance. The story of Alexandria became a cautionary tale, a reminder of memory's fragility, of how easily knowledge can be lost, how civilization itself is one generation away from extinction if we fail to transmit what we know. But here's a counter-narrative. Maybe the loss wasn't total. Maybe the important knowledge survived, was copied elsewhere, was memorized by scholars who fled. Knowledge wants to spread. Ideas that matter find a way. The Library of Alexandria fell. But here we are, thousands of years later, still talking about it, still mourning it. The memory of the library outlived the library itself. Perhaps that's the real lesson. Not that knowledge is fragile, but that memory is resilient, finds a way, survives through stories, even when the physical artifacts are destroyed. Funes, the Memorias. In 1942, Jorge Luis Borges published a short story called Funes, the Memorias. It tells of a young man, Ireneo Funes, who after a riding accident develops perfect memory. He forgets nothing, remembers every leaf on every tree, every word of every conversation, every cloud formation he's ever seen. You might think this is a blessing. Borges shows it's a curse. Funes cannot sleep because closing his eyes brings an overwhelming flood of memories. He cannot think abstractly because abstract thinking requires forgetting particulars, generalizing, seeing patterns. But Funes is drowned in details. He cannot understand the concept dog, because every dog he's seen is completely unique to him. He cannot think three, because each instance of three things is specific, particular, different. He lives in an eternal present that is actually an eternal past. Every moment equally vivid. He cannot move forward because he's too burdened by everything behind him. Borges writes, "To think is to forget differences, generalize, abstract. Memory without forgetting is paralysis." Funes is more memory than human. He has become his past, has no room for a future. The story is a philosophical thought experiment, but it points to something true. Identity requires balance. Too much forgetting, and you have no continuity, no self. Too much remembering, and you have no freedom, no growth. You need to remember enough to learn from experience, but forget enough to move on, to try again, to be surprised, to change. The man who could not forget. Not all memory legends are ancient. The 20th century gave us new stories. Stories that feel like fables, even though they're grounded in reality. Stories that illuminate truth through the strange and exceptional. Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentine writer, poet, philosopher, published a short story in 1942 called Funes the Memorias. It tells of a young man named Ireneo Funes, who, after a riding accident, develops perfect memory. Total recall. He forgets nothing, remembers every leaf on every tree, every word of every conversation he's ever heard, every cloud formation he's ever seen, every moment of every day, preserved with absolute fidelity. You might think this is a blessing, a gift, the solution to all our forgetting. Borges shows us it's a curse. Funes cannot sleep, because when he closes his eyes, he's overwhelmed by the flood of memories. They come rushing back, all of them, at once. Every moment he's ever lived. Vivid, detailed, inescapable. Sleep requires forgetting, requires letting go. And Funes cannot let go of anything. He cannot think abstractly, cannot generalize, cannot see patterns. Because abstract thinking requires forgetting particulars, requires seeing past the details to the underlying form. But Funes is drowned in details. Every dog he's ever seen is completely unique to him. He cannot understand the concept dog because it requires erasing the differences, seeing the similarity. And he cannot erase anything. He cannot grasp the number 3 because each instance of 3 things is specific, particular, different. 3 apples is not the same as 3 stones. 3 stones is not the same as 3 days. Each is its own reality, its own unique thing. Borges writes something profound, something that stays with you. He writes, "To think is to forget differences, to generalize, to abstract." Memory without forgetting is not superior consciousness. It's paralysis. Funes is more memory than human. He has become his past, has no room left for a future, cannot move forward because he's too burdened by everything behind him. The story is philosophical, a thought experiment. But it points to something true, something we've already learned from science, but here expressed as poetry. Identity requires balance. You need to remember enough to learn from experience, to maintain continuity, to be yourself. But you need to forget enough to move on, to try again, to be surprised, to change, to grow. You need the general shape without every detail, the meaning without every word, the emotional truth without every sensation. Too much forgetting, and you lose yourself. No past, no story, no continuity. Too much remembering, and you lose yourself differently. Stuck, frozen, unable to see the forest for the trees, unable to live because you're too busy remembering. The sweet spot, the human spot, is in between, remembering and forgetting in equal measure, holding and releasing, keeping and letting go. The eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. There's a film from 2004 that explores a question humanity has asked for centuries. If you could erase your painful memories, surgically remove them, make it as if they never happened, would you? Should you? The film is called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The title comes from a poem by Alexander Pope. How happy is the blameless vestal's lot, the world forgetting by the world forgot. Eternal sunshine of the spotless mind, each prayer accepted and each wish resigned. In the film, a technology exists that allows people to erase specific memories. The protagonist, Joel, heartbroken after a devastating breakup, decides to erase all memories of his ex-girlfriend, Clementine. Every moment they shared, every conversation, every touch, gone, as if she never existed. The procedure happens while he sleeps. Technicians map his memories of her, chronologically starting with the most recent, and then delete them, one by one, moving backward through time. But as the process unfolds, as Joel watches his memories being erased, disappearing like photographs burning, he realizes something. He doesn't want to forget. Yes, the relationship ended badly. Yes, there was pain. But there was also joy, beauty, love, growth, and they're intertwined. You cannot erase the pain without erasing everything else. The good and the bad are woven together, inseparable. He tries to resist, tries to hide memories where the technicians won't find them, takes memories of Clementine and places them in contexts where she doesn't belong. Childhood memories, random moments from before they met, trying to preserve something, anything. But the machine is thorough. By morning, she's gone from his mind, erased, as if they never met. The twist comes later. The beautiful, heartbreaking twist. Clementine had the procedure first, erased him. That's why Joel decided to do it. Revenge, symmetry. If she could forget him, he could forget her. But then they meet again. Neither remembers the other. And they fall in love. Again. The habasto, same attraction. The same connection. The same patterns that brought them together before. When they discover what happened, when they learn they've already had this relationship, already tried and failed, they have to choose. Knowing they've been here before, knowing it ended badly, do they try again or walk away? The film suggests, try again. Because the alternative, living without love to avoid pain, is not really living at all. This story captures something essential about memory and identity. You are the sum of your experiences, all of them. The joyful and the painful, the successes and the failures, the love and the heartbreak. Erase the hard parts, and you don't become a better version of yourself. You become a lesser version. Incomplete, missing pieces, missing the wisdom that only comes through struggle, missing the depth that only comes through loss. Your painful memories are not just burdens. They're teachers. They're foundations. They're part of what makes you, you. Yes, the weight can be heavy. Yes, some memories hurt to carry. But they're yours, your story, your journey. And there's dignity in carrying them, courage in facing them, growth in integrating them. The spotless mind is not eternal sunshine. It's eternal emptiness, eternal shallowness, eternal inability to love deeply because you've never risked being hurt deeply. Better to remember, better to feel, better to carry the full weight of being human than to erase yourself in search of comfort. The Eternal Sunshine. The 2004 film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind explores a technology that allows people to erase specific memories. The protagonist, Joel, heartbroken after a breakup, decides to erase all memories of his ex-girlfriend, Clementine. As the procedure happens, as he watches his memories being deleted one by one, chronologically backward, he realizes he doesn't want to forget. The painful memories, yes, but also the beautiful ones. They're intertwined. You cannot erase the pain without erasing the joy. He tries to hide memories where the technicians won't find them. Tries to preserve something, anything. But the machine is thorough. By morning, she's gone from his mind, as if she never existed. The twist. She had the same procedure. Erased him first. That's why he did it. The final twist. They meet again. Fall in love again. Neither remembering they've done this before. The cycle might repeat forever. The film asks, if you could forget your worst memories, should you? Is it better to live without pain, but also without the wisdom pain brings? Is it better to risk repeating mistakes than to carry the weight of remembered suffering? The answer, the film suggests. Memory makes us who we are. Even painful memory, especially painful memory. Erasing it is erasing yourself. Fragments of yourself. The parts that learned, that grew, that changed because of the pain. You are the sum of your experiences. All of them. The good and the bad. The joyful and the traumatic. Take away the hard parts, and you're not a better version of yourself. You're a lesser version. Incomplete. This is a modern legend, a myth for the technological age, but it expresses an ancient truth. Memory is identity. To forget is to die. at least partially, to become someone else. The ghosts of memory. Why are ghosts so often tied to memory in stories? Why do they haunt specific places? Why do they repeat actions from their past? Because ghosts are memory made visible. They're the past refusing to fade, insisting on being remembered. Hamlet's father appears as a ghost, not randomly, not anywhere. At Elsinore, the castle where he died, at midnight, the hour of his murder, he appears to remind, to prevent forgetting. Remember me, he tells Hamlet. That's his purpose. His entire existence is about memory. In Japanese folklore, ghosts, yurei, appear because something was left unresolved, an injustice unavenged, a love unfulfilled, a promise broken. They cannot rest because they cannot forget, cannot let go. The memory binds them. These stories reflect psychological truth. We are haunted by memory, especially memories of guilt, of trauma, of unfinished business. These memories won't stay buried. They resurface, intrude, demand attention. The cure for ghosts in stories is always the same. Acknowledge them. Remember properly. Honor what happened. Make amends if possible. Then the ghost can rest, can be released, can fade. This is also the cure for psychological haunting. Repressed memories don't disappear. They become symptoms, nightmares, anxiety, intrusive thoughts. The cure is to bring them into consciousness, to remember fully, to integrate them into your narrative. Then they lose their power to haunt. Memory wants to be remembered. Paradoxical but true. The memories you try hardest to forget are often the ones that grip you most tightly. The ones you need to face, process, integrate. Only then can they become truly past. Only then do the ghosts rest. Act 3. Mythology. The eternal patterns of remembering. We've moved through science and legend. Now let's descend deeper, into mythology, into the archetypal patterns that repeat across cultures and centuries, into the eternal questions about what memory means at the deepest level. The river Styx and the ferryman. Let's return to the Greek underworld. But this time, look closer at the geography, the structure, the symbolism. 5 rivers encircle the underworld. Each represents an aspect of death. The Styx, hatred; Acheron, pain; Phlegethon, fire; Cocytus, lamentation; and Lethe, forgetfulness. To reach the realm of the dead, souls must cross these rivers. But they cannot cross alone. They need a guide, a ferryman, Charon. Charon's price is 1 coin, placed under the tongue of the corpse before burial. No coin, no passage. The soul remains trapped between worlds, neither alive nor properly dead. This is rich symbolism. Death is a transition, a crossing. You cannot make it without preparation, without ritual, without letting go of the material world, symbolized by paying the ferryman. But what does this have to do with memory? Everything. Because the journey through the underworld is the journey through the past, through everything you've been, through all the memories, painful and joyful, that make up a life. The 5 rivers are 5 types of forgetting, 5 ways the past must be released. Hatred must be left behind. Pain must be released. Burning passion must cool. Lamentation must cease. And finally, complete forgetting must be accepted. Only then can you be reborn. Only then can you begin again. This is the archetypal pattern of transformation, death and rebirth, ending and beginning, forgetting and remembering. It repeats in every major life transition, moving from childhood to adulthood, from single to married, from career to retirement, from one identity to another. Each transition requires forgetting, letting go of who you were. The old self must die, not literally, but psychologically. The memories of that old self must be placed in proper perspective, must become past rather than present. You cannot carry everything forward. Some things must be left behind. The ferryman demands his price. Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory. But alongside the rivers of forgetting flows the spring of memory. Mnemosyne. Mnemosyne was not just the goddess of memory, she was a titan, one of the first generation of divine beings, mother of the 9 muses. Think about that symbolism. Memory is the mother of all art, all creativity, all culture. Without memory, there is no music. Music is patterns that exist in time. You cannot perceive melody without remembering the notes that came before. Without memory, there is no poetry. Poetry is built on repetition, on callback, on weaving past and present together. Without memory, there is no history, no learning, no progress. Mnemosyne is the foundation, the ground of culture, the source. And she's a titan, meaning she's older than the Olympian gods. Memory precedes even the highest forms of consciousness. Memory is primordial, essential, eternal. The myth tells us, honor memory, cherish it, protect it. It's not just useful, it's sacred, divine, the source of everything meaningful. The eternal return. Nietzsche proposed a thought experiment. A demon appears to you and says, "This life you're living now, you will live it again, exactly the same. Every joy, every sorrow, every mistake, every triumph, again and again, eternally." Would this thought crush you with despair or fill you with joy? Nietzsche called this the ultimate test of life affirmation. If you can say yes to eternal recurrence, yes, I would live this life again and again, forever, then you are truly living well. But notice, eternal recurrence is about memory. It's the nightmare of remembering everything, forever, never escaping, never moving forward. The past constantly repeating. It's also the dream of perfect memory. Nothing lost, nothing forgotten. Every moment preserved eternally. The question is, which is it? Heaven or hell? The answer depends on what you remember, what kind of life you've lived, what meaning you've found. If your life is full of regret, of missed opportunities, of pain you haven't processed, eternal recurrence is torture. Being forced to relive it all forever, unable to change anything. But if your life is rich with meaning, with love, with experiences you treasure, then eternal recurrence is blessing. Getting to relive every beautiful moment, every connection, every joy. The thought experiment is really asking, what are you building with your life? What kind of memories are you creating? If you had to carry them forever, would you be proud or burdened? The Akashic Records. In Theosophy and other esoteric traditions, there's a concept called the Akashic Records, a cosmic library. Every thought, every action, every event that has ever occurred, all recorded in a non-physical plane, accessible to those with sufficient spiritual development. This is memory taken to its ultimate extreme. Not personal memory, not cultural memory, but universal memory, the memory of existence itself. Everything that happens leaves an imprint, an energetic trace. Nothing is truly lost, nothing truly forgotten. It's all there, in the records, forever. This concept appears in different forms across many traditions. The Book of Life in Abrahamic religions, the karmic records in Hinduism and Buddhism, the Jungian collective unconscious. Different languages, same idea. The universe remembers. Consciousness itself is a recording device, and somewhere In some dimension, some level of reality, everything that has ever been thought or felt or done continues to exist. This is both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because it means nothing is truly lost. Everyone who has ever lived continues to exist in the records. Their thoughts, their loves, their struggles, all preserved. Terrifying because it means nothing can be escaped. No sin forgotten, no shame buried, all exposed, all known, all permanent. The question is, do you believe it? Is there really such a thing as universal memory? Or is it a metaphor for something else? Maybe the Akashic records are not a literal place, but a psychological truth. The recognition that actions have consequences, that what you do matters, that you are accountable not to some external judge, but to the pattern of your own life, to the story you're writing with your choices. In this interpretation, the records are memory, your own and others. You are remembered by the people you've touched, by the consequences of your actions rippling forward through time. You cannot escape this memory, cannot erase your impact. What you do becomes part of the causal chain of the universe. Forever. This is responsibility. This is why choices matter. Not because a cosmic accountant is tallying them, but because they become part of what is, part of what was, part of the eternal pattern. The myth of total recall. There's a persistent fantasy in human culture. Perfect memory. Total recall. Remembering everything with absolute fidelity. We've explored why this would actually be terrible, why forgetting is necessary. But the fantasy persists. Why? Because we sense that we're missing something, that huge portions of our lives are lost, that we've forgotten more than we remember, that somewhere in the forgotten parts might be something important, something we need. The fantasy of total recall is the fantasy of recovering what's lost, of being whole, complete, knowing yourself fully. It's related to the fantasy of time travel, of going back, of reliving, of changing what happened, of getting another chance. These fantasies are about regret, about the sense that something was lost that should have been kept, about the grief of impermanence. But here's a different perspective. Maybe the forgetting is the point. Maybe what makes moments precious is precisely that they're fleeting, temporary, gone once they've passed. If you could replay every moment forever, would any moment be special? Or would they all blur together into an undifferentiated mass of experience? The Japanese have a concept, mono no aware, the pathos of things, the gentle sadness that comes from recognizing the impermanence of everything. Cherry blossoms are beautiful precisely because they fade. Life is precious precisely because it ends. Memory works the same way. Memories are precious because they're partial, fragmentary, fading. If they were perfect and permanent, they would lose their power to move us. The ache of forgetting, the sense that something important is slipping away. This ache is part of being human, part of being alive, part of loving what will not last. Anamnesis, remembering the eternal Plato, had a theory of knowledge he called anamnesis, recollection. He believed that learning is actually remembering, that the soul existed before birth in a realm of perfect forms. There, it knew everything, all truth, all beauty, all goodness. Then it's born into a body, forgets everything. The material world is like a cave where we see only shadows of the true forms. But deep within, the knowledge remains, buried, forgotten but not lost. Learning then is remembering. The teacher doesn't give you knowledge. The teacher helps you remember what you already know, helps you recognize truth when you encounter it. This is why certain ideas feel immediately right. Not because you're learning them for the first time, but because you're remembering them, recognizing them, knowing them again. It's a beautiful theory. And whether or not it's literally true, it points to something real. There are moments of recognition in life. When you encounter an idea, a place, a person, and something in you says, yes, this, I know this, even though you've never experienced it before. Jung called this the collective unconscious, the shared psychic heritage of humanity. We carry within us patterns, archetypes, structures of meaning that are universal. When we encounter them in the world, we recognize them, remember them, even though we never consciously learned them. Anamnesis is the hope that we're not as lost as we seem, that deep within, we remember the way home, remember who we truly are, remember what matters. The spiritual journey, in this view, is not about acquiring new knowledge. It's about removing the obstructions, clearing away the forgetting, returning to what you've always known but had forgotten. The two wolves. There's a story, sometimes attributed to Cherokee tradition, though its actual origin is unclear, about an old man teaching his grandson about life. "A fight is going on inside me," he says. "It is a terrible fight between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." He continues, "The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. The grandson thinks about it, then asks, "Which wolf will win?" The old man replies, "The one you feed." What does this have to do with memory? Everything. Because which wolf wins depends on which memories you feed, which parts of your past you dwell on, which stories you tell yourself. You can remember your past as a string of failures, of rejections, of times you were hurt or wronged. Feed that wolf, and bitterness grows. Resentment, anger. The past becomes a burden, a weapon against yourself. Or you can remember your past differently. The moments of kindness, of growth, of overcoming, of connection. Feed that wolf, and gratitude grows. Strength, hope. The past becomes a foundation, a resource. The facts don't change. What happened, happened. But the meaning changes. The emphasis changes. The narrative changes. You are the narrator of your life. Memory is how you tell the story. And which story you tell shapes who you become. This is power, real power. Not to change the past, but to change its meaning. To choose which wolf to feed. The ultimate forgetting. Death. All our talk of memory leads inevitably to death. Because death is the ultimate forgetting. Or is it? Different traditions give different answers. Materialist view, death is the end. The brain stops. The memories are lost. Completely. Permanently. You are your memories. And when they're gone, you're gone. This view is sobering. Tragic even. Everything you've experienced, everyone you've loved, all the memories you've accumulated, all the wisdom you've gained. Gone. Erased. It makes life more precious, but also more terrifying. The stakes are absolute. Religious views offer alternatives. The soul continues, carries memories to an afterlife. Or memories are uploaded to a cosmic mind, or reincarnation, with memories potentially accessible under the right circumstances. These views offer comfort, but also raise questions. If you're reincarnated without memory of past lives, in what sense is it you? Continuity of consciousness requires memory. Without memory, rebirth is just another person starting fresh. Some traditions say memory persists in deeper forms, not specific episodic memories, but karmic patterns, tendencies, the shape of your soul, who you've become through all your choices. This persists even when specific memories fade. This is a middle ground, not full continuity, not complete erasure, but something carried forward. The essence, the pattern, the deep structure of self. Jung suggested something similar with the collective, unconscious. When you die, your personal memories might fade, but you contribute to the collective pool. Your experiences, your insights, your struggles, they enrich the shared human experience. Future generations inherit them, not consciously, but at a deep level. You live on in the impact you've had, in the memories others hold of you, in the changes you made to the world, in the children you raised or the students you taught or the art you created. This is secular immortality, memory-based immortality, and it's real. Aristotle died over 2,000 years ago, but we still read his words, still think his thoughts. In a very real sense, he's still alive, still influencing, still present. You won't be Aristotle, but you'll be present in the people who remember you, and they'll pass something forward. And gradually, your specific identity will fade, but your influence will ripple outward, forever. This is both comforting and melancholic. Comforting because nothing is truly lost. Melancholic because the specific you, your unique consciousness, your irreplaceable perspective, will eventually fade beyond recovery. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the point isn't to last forever as yourself. Maybe the point is to participate, to contribute, to be part of the great conversation of consciousness across time, to add your memories to the pool, to be remembered, then gradually forgotten, knowing that in the forgetting, you dissolve back into the source from which you came. The eternal now. We end where all deep thinking about memory ends, in paradox. Memory is about the past, but you remember in the present. The past exists only as present memory. The future exists only as present anticipation. The only moment that truly exists is now. This moment, this breath. Everything else, past and future, is mental construction. Real, but not present. Known, but not experienced. And yet, you are your memories. Your identity spans time. You connect past to future through the continuous narrative of self. You are not just this present moment. You are the pattern across moments. How do you hold both truths? That only now is real, and yet you are more than now? This is the mystery, the koan, the paradox at the heart of consciousness. Perhaps memory is what allows you to be a self at all. Without memory, you'd be a succession of disconnected moments, each now separate. No continuity, no learning, no growth, no meaning. Memory stitches moments together, creates the illusion or reality of continuity, of a self that persists through time. But that self exists only as memory and anticipation, only as past and future, never as present. By the time you grasp the present, it's already past. You are always just missing yourself, always arriving just after you've left. This could be depressing, or it could be liberating. Depressing if you cling, if you try to hold on to moments, to freeze time, to make the present permanent. Liberating if you let go. If you recognize that the flow is everything, that change is the only constant, that trying to hold on is futile and unnecessary. Memory allows you to carry the essence forward without clutching the details, to honor the past without being imprisoned by it, to learn from experience without repeating it. You are a river, not a stone, always moving, always changing. always the same river, never the same water. Memory is the riverbank, gives shape to the flow, direction, continuity. Without it, you'd be a flood, chaotic, destructive, shapeless. But the bank is not the river. The pattern is not the water. You are both, the pattern and the flow, the memory and the moment, the continuous narrative and the fleeting now. Hold both. Don't collapse into one or the other. Live in the tension, in the paradox, in the space between. This is wisdom. This is peace. This is being fully human. Conclusion. What we carry forward. We've traveled far, from the neuroscience of the hippocampus to the mythology of the underworld, from the method of Loci to the Akashic records, from Ebbinghaus to eternal recurrence. What remains? What can we take from all this? A few things, simple truths, worth carrying forward. First, memory is a gift, not perfect, not always reliable, but astonishing in its scope and power. You can travel through time without moving, can learn from the past, can plan for the future, can be more than this single moment. Second, forgetting is also a gift, necessary, merciful. What you forget is as important as what you remember. Let go of what doesn't serve you. Make space for new experiences. Third, you are the narrator. The facts of your past are fixed, but the meaning is fluid. You can reframe, reinterpret, choose which memories to feed, which stories to tell yourself. Fourth, memory connects you to your past self, to other people, to culture, to humanity. You are not isolated. You're part of a vast web of memory, contributing to it, drawing from it. Fifth, the present moment is all you have, all you've ever had. The past exists only in memory, the future only in imagination. Here, now, this breath, this awareness, this is what's real. Hold these truths lightly. Don't cling. Let them inform how you live, how you remember, how you forget, how you carry forward what matters. Your memory is your wealth. Not money, not possessions, but experiences, relationships, insights, growth, everything you've lived, everything you've learned, everything you've become. You cannot take it with you when you die. Or maybe you can, we don't know. But either way, you have it now. Use it now. Let it enrich your present. Let it guide you forward. And recognize, you are creating memories right now. This moment will be past, will be memory. What are you making? What do you want to remember? What kind of life are you building? Years from now, you'll look back at this time. What will you see? What will you have wished you'd done? Who will you have wished you'd been? Don't wait. Live now, fully, attentively, present, so that when memory comes, when you look back, you'll have something worth remembering. The past is gone. The future hasn't arrived, but you're here, aware, alive, remembering and forgetting and being. This is enough. This is everything. Rest now. Let your mind drift. Let the boundaries soften between past and present, between memory and dream, between remembering and forgetting. You've carried your memories this far. They've carried you. You've made it to now, to this moment, this breath. And that's all you need, all you've ever needed. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Feel the weight of all you've lived, all you've forgotten, all you carry forward, and let it be. Let it all be. You are memory, and you are more than memory. You are the pattern, and you are the flow. You are story, and you are the storyteller. You are here, now, remembering. And that is beautiful. That is enough. That is everything. Rest well. Dream deeply. Remember what matters. Forget what doesn't. And wake tomorrow ready to create new memories worth keeping. Good night. Until we meet again, in memory, in dream, or in the eternal present where all moments exist at once. Good night.